We're joined now by a very vocal critic of the president, Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Congresswoman, as I've been watching these events unfold over the span of the last 10 days, what occurs to me is that what makes us weak, what makes the United States weak, is when elected officials criticize the commander-in-chief in a time of crisis.
Well, I think that what we can all agree on, Michael, is that the president's track record with foreign policy has not been one of strength. And that is troublesome to people regardless of what their political affiliation is. We want to see our nation strong and healthy and vibrant and focused on protecting our sovereignty and protecting freedom, free people, and free markets. And so some of the steps the president has taken, not being sure about where to draw a red line, have led not only to the American people questioning his decisions, but I think world leaders questioning his decisions.
But
we're not going to criticize him for that now. Well, and
how
that's
does it
the
serve
thing.
our interests to portray him as something out of the old, Charles Atlas cartoon where he's getting sand kicked in his face? You speak to weakness. I see a man with a mixed record. I see a man who gave the order. It seems like it was a no-brainer in retrospect, but it wasn't at the time for SEAL Team 6 to take out bin Laden. I see someone who's incrementally increased drone strike attacks. I see the NSA still spying in the name of national security. I see an air war that was supported in Libya. And what I don't understand is how this equates to weakness.
Well, and what you're describing is what we hear from so many of our constituents. It's inconsistency. And there are times where it's been very weak. There are times that he has spoken out in strength, and he said the right things. But you referenced growing up and sitting in those beanbag chairs, and I bet as you were doing so, your mom, just like my mom, reminded me every day that actions speak louder than words. And what the American people would like to see is a consistency of action from this president. This is a situation that, yes, indeed, the world is watching very closely.
Well, let's then address the big question.
About an aggressive Russia. Yeah.
Congresswoman, let's address then the big question, because when you say actions, and Mom did say that, by the way, and usually she had a yardstick in her hand when she said it to my brother and me. When you say that actions speak louder than words, are you saying that Crimea warrants a U.S. troop commitment? Because this is another thing that has bothered me. I hear all the criticism of the president as a 98-pound weakling, but I don't hear Republican opponents saying we should commit troops. Are you ready to make that statement?
Michael, I think that what we should do is look at the options that are there. The president, in his phone call with Putin, has laid out some things. The international monitors, the logistical support, bringing together the talks that would be under international oversight, if you will, then looking at sanctions, and I know it's early in the process for that and that the State Department is working on those, but certainly that's a consideration that we should move forward on and probably
But it sounds like those are the those are the things that he actually is doing. Permit me to ask it a different way. On the world stage, do you see a European leader right now that you perceive to be acting with the sort of strength that you wish you'd get from President Obama? And if so, who is that individual and what is it that they are doing?
I think that what we would like to see is President Obama be more forceful and take that lead. You know, let's look at the issue of energy right now. And Speaker Boehner had a great piece in the Wall Street Journal speaking specifically on that. There are things that we could do domestically to work with our European allies in the energy sector. With LNG, you know, the House took an action itself last week to allow, or this week, to allow loan guarantees for the Ukrainian people. Wide bipartisan support. What we need to do is realize we are Team America. We need to send this message to Russia, to China, to others that may be aggressors and say we are not going to stand for this.
Well, that's actually where I began. When you put this in the terms of we are Team America, and maybe I should express it this way, David Ignatius had a great piece in the Post this week. He interviewed former Defense Secretary Gates. Secretary Gates, as you know, Congresswoman, having served for both Republicans and Democrats, himself
Sure,
a Republican.
absolutely.
And he said, in a time of crisis, we need to speak with one voice. And I think that's what upsets me the most about this. We're in a crisis, but we're not. You saw that montage. We're not speaking with one voice, and some are putting politics ahead of national security. That's how I perceive it, but you get the final word.
This president has had a very weak past when it comes to foreign policy and has had difficulty in articulating a foreign policy. What we want to do is make certain that we move to a point that the world understands what our foreign policy is, and that we are going to stand with people that honor freedom, free people, free markets, and that we protect the sovereignty of the United States. That should be our goal.
Congresswoman, thanks so much. For better or worse, you're my first guest ever on CNN, and I'm appreciative. The unfinished story. Thank you.